All right, how we doing? How we doing, CMS, this morning? Come on! Wow. It's exciting to be here. I want to thank Bruce and Matt for having me here all of these years. I've been involved with them since the beginning of this. So I'm going to go right into my story and try to land the plane exactly when I said. All right, I'm going to tell you a story here. So this is one of my life verses. I have many of them, but this is one that speaks to me. Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's workmanship, all of us. We are God's workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works which he prepared in advance for us to do. So I'm going to take you on a journey of how God did that for me. It all begins with this woman. This was my mother. Her name was Maria. She was an immigrant from Mexico City, and I was the first of her children to be born in the United States. She had 4 children in Mexico, but something happened to me at the age of 6 months that changed the trajectory of my life. So that's me there scratching my head, wondering what had just happened, because my father at 6 months left and deserted us. He moved back to Chicago, where he was from, where he told everybody, they asked him, what happened to the Mexican lady you married who was pregnant with your child? And he went on to tell them that we had died, that we died in childbirth. So that's how my life started, with a death sentence. But ironically, prophetically, the only thing he left me was a set of bongos. Those are bongos, Ricky Ricardo old school bongos, you know? And they were in my stroller, and of course I had no idea what I was going to do with them at that time. But ever since he said that I had died, I fell in love with this quote from Mark Twain. It said, "The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated." So I loved Mark Twain ever since then. Well, I grew up in a place called Compton, California. Anybody heard of Compton? I came straight out of Compton, literally. That's where my life began. And then this is my family. This is my mother. She raised 7 children alone. I'm the kid in the middle who looks like the Grinch. I got the Grinch who stole Christmas look on my face. Back then I was stealing a lot of things. I just couldn't steal Christmas. It was too big. But anybody remember these things? All right, radio flyer wagons, right? I grew up with those, but mine was used quite a bit differently. We had moved so many times and got evicted out of so many different apartments in LA that literally every couple months we would move to another apartment down the street. We could not afford a U-Haul, so we moved our entire family on my radio flyer wagon. We could put box springs, mattresses, furniture on there. You'd be surprised what you could do. I should do an ad for them now. But anyway, my mother loved to read to me, and anybody remember Dr. Seuss? Okay, so here's a success story. That guy's books were rejected by everybody about 30 or 40 times, and he went on to be the greatest selling author of children's books. So when people say no, it doesn't always mean that God won't work it out. Well, I got a hold of this quote, and I really loved it. It said, "Why fit in when you were born to stand out?" That's what I say, right? We're all different. We're all meant to be different. Why fit in when you were born to stand out? So I took that a little bit further, and it was the first grade school pictures, and I asked my mother, I said, "Mama, can I wear your scarf for my picture?" And she's like, "No, mijo, boys don't wear scarves here in the United States. They'll beat you up." I said, "Come on, Mama, you look like a movie star. I want to look like you. You look beautiful." And she goes, "No, mijo, I tell you, they're going to beat you up." And I said, Elvis Presley wears a scarf. Tom Jones wears a scarf, and they're cool. She goes, "Oh, you got me there, mijo, okay." So this was me at my first grade school picture. Rocking Mama's orange scarf with no teeth, you know, and dirty fingernails. So I was already kind of different back then, but I wanted that professional shot. So not long after that, I got invited. I was 7 years old. I got invited to a concert that changed my life. I was 7 years old. I got to go see Diana Ross and the Supremes and the Temptations in concert, one of the great Motown groups. And man, I just got so inspired by watching the drummers. I started collecting all the Motown records. Remember those 45s? Not the gun and not the malt liquor, but like the records. You know what I mean? When they were 40 cents, 50 cents. Well, I used to have a lot of different 45s in Motown. I got so inspired, I went to my mother's cupboard, and I just started making a makeshift ghetto drum set out of like oatmeal cans and Folgers coffee cans and whatever I could find. And then I went out in the street and played. Now, this is not me, but this is what I would have done. You know, I'd set out, and I was in Compton. I had a transistor radio, put on some soul music, and just played with some salad spoons. And that's kind of how it all began for me. And then I had a dramatic life change. So I grew up in the streets of Compton, which was totally urban Los Angeles. And then we hit the Oregon Trail. Yeah. That was us in the last stagecoach there. It took a while. I'll tell you, the travel has improved since then greatly. No, but we actually did move from, of all places, we moved from Grants Pass, Oregon. I mean, we moved from Compton to Grants Pass, Oregon. So I got to tell you how drastic that is, right? And so when we got to Grants Pass, things got so tough for us that we ended up living in our car. So this was my home for a while, a 1962 Chevy Nova. Don't get the bucket seats. It's hard to sleep that way. But anyway, things were really tough, and my mother was looking through the newspaper trying to find some work, and we hadn't eaten. We only had like a little bit of Wonder Bread left and a can of soup or whatever, and we were down to nothing. And she said, I found an ad in the newspaper, and there's this thing coming in Grants Pass. It's called the Boatnik. So it's like a carnival festival. She said, it says here in the ad there's free food eating contests. So if we could just hold out a few days, we can make it. So this is me. We won every single food eating contest at the park. That was the watermelon eating contest. We won the flapjack, corn dogs, fried chicken, and people were just like, oh my God, who are these people? How do you guys eat so fast? And my brother just looked at them and said, oh, that's easy. All you got to do is be starving. They didn't know what to do with that. So then my mother, she knew I was having a hard time because going from Compton to going to Grants Pass was like leaving the set of Sanford and Son and moving on to the set of the Waltons or Little House on the Prairie. Only you never left. So this is what I found on Christmas morning. She saved $9.99. It might as well have been $1 million, and she got this for me. It was a Mickey Mouse drum set. So literally, I started with Mickey Mouse, and of course, Mickey was sporting the flare, the bell-bottoms, and the scarf as well, if you look closely. So I had two heroes to follow. I got so inspired that I destroyed the drum set by Christmas evening. It was just paper heads. It was just kind of a toy. It wasn't really a real set. But after that, I started thinking about music. So there was a talent show at the school for the 5th grade, and I wanted to enter the talent show, but I didn't know what my talent was because I didn't have anything. So I declared and decreed that I was a drummer, even though I didn't have a drum set. So the first rehearsal came, and the kids were like, well, where's your drum set? I'm like, well, it's in the shop right now getting fixed. It's missing some wing nuts, but I'll just play with my hands on the back of the chair and just keep time. Well, the night of the contest came, and I didn't have a drum set, but we found some like old refrigerator boxes behind a trash can, and my brothers and sisters stayed up all night, and they painted like a drum set on it. So I played the concert, on the box, with my hands. Now, there was probably only 20 or 30 people in the audience, mostly brothers and sisters that were drugged to go there, and they attended. But when I looked out and I played my bongo solo on the box, I saw like millions of people. I was a dreamer. I was imagining and looking into the future, and I saw millions of people, and I got really excited. So after that, I tried to go join the school band program in the 5th grade, and they said, no, we already have too many drummers. So every year I was turned down. So what do you do when you can't drum? Well, if you're me, you decide you're going to write a camping book, because that's what you do when you can't play the drums. So that's me holding the manuscript to my camping book in Grants Pass, because all of a sudden I wanted to go camping because Grants Pass was beautiful, mountains and trees. In LA, it's just a concrete river. And so, but we couldn't afford to send me camping, so I decided I was going to write the world's greatest camping book. And I checked out every book from the library about camping, and I figured I'd compile one that's even better. And I was really working on it. And then, I drifted a little bit, and then I thought I was going to be the world's greatest chicken farmer. So that was me at a place called the Rogue River Rooster Crow Contest. Those things really exist. In rural America, when there's nothing to do, you invent things like the Rooster Crow Contest. And so anyway, I thought I started with one, then I had like 200 from all over the world, and then I made the mistake of raising St. Bernards. And then one day, my big St. Bernard man, he busted loose in there and almost killed all of them. And so that was the end of that. So now I'm a man in search of an identity. 14 years old, and then I figured the one glove. I'm going to do a one glove thing. That's going to make me different. I'm always looking to do something different, right? But what I really needed was a job. So I got a hold of this quote from Martin Luther King. He said, if a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. He should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. So I took that to heart, and I took the only job I could find. My counselor asked what I like. I said, I like music. Can you find me a job around music? He said, come back next week. I'll see what I can do. Come back next week. He finds me a job as a janitor at my own high school. So I'm 16 years old. That's not a musical job, but I take the job. It's an after-school job. So I go and clean the toilets and do all the stuff. Kids make fun of me for cleaning the latrine and all that, but I figured, no, I'm going to be the world's greatest janitor. And then, but the last part of the job, last 10 minutes of the job was to clean the band room. So I would go there and put the sheet music away, vacuum, but then I would sneak on the drum set. I was 16 years old, and I would sneak and play, and no one was there. One day, the band director was there, and he caught me. He caught me drumming on the job. Instead of drinking on the job, I was drumming on the job. And I knew I was going to get fired, so he goes and gets another guy and comes back and says, play what you were playing a minute ago. So I played. They look at each other. He goes, kid, I don't know where you've been hiding, but you've got a real great gift here. We need you in all these school band programs. We need you in the stage band, the jazz band, the marching band. So I was discovered as a janitor, and that's how my career started. And that was me in the stage band. And then I was marching to the beat of my own drum, wearing turquoise early on, with the shades there in Grants Pass at the same festival, the Boatneck Festival. Then in my senior year, we moved to Eugene, Oregon, and I joined the circus. No. That's what people dress like in 1980 in show bands. Well, I'm wearing the hat there. So I joined, right after high school, I joined the best band in Eugene, and we were on our way down to Anaheim. So their goal was to score the big house band gig at Disneyland. So this was the Tomorrowland Terrace that every kid dreamed of playing. And every kid dreamed of wearing those white patent leather shoes and those Harvest Gold pants. No, those were nightmares. But anyway, so we auditioned for the Magic Kingdom. I'm down there with this top-notch cover band, and guess what happens? We don't get the gig. So now I'm back down in LA. The band's beginning to fall apart. I called my mother. I said, Mama, I said, I think I'm going to have to come back to Eugene and regroup because things are falling apart. And she told me something very important. She said, don't come back, mijo. Don't come back. She said, if you come back, you'll never leave. You've got to find a way to stick it out. You've got talent, you've got real talent, but you've got to be in the area where people can hear you. So I was really scared. I didn't know what to do. I only had a couple $100 left. And this is why they call us starving musicians, because with my last couple $100, I bought the Earth, Wind & Fire boombox. Because I was like, oh, I got to have that boombox, man. Earth, Wind & Fire is my favorite band in the world, and they got the Panasonic boombox. So I spent my last couple $100. I bought the boombox. I bought their latest record, and I went to this place. This is BHHS. This is the most prestigious high school in America, Beverly Hills High School. So I took my boombox. I was wearing my hat. I was wearing all yellow that day. I had a practice pad and some sticks. I was cranking some Earth, Wind & Fire, and I sat on that lawn. And the whole idea was, if there's some musicians here, they're going to see that I'm a new guy. So within 10 minutes, a couple guys come and start talking to me. Hey, are you new here? And I was like, I don't know what to say. I said, yeah, I'm new here. I just started. Oh, I just transferred from Eugene. So I started showing up every single day to the high school. I relived my entire senior year at Beverly Hills High School, and no one knew I wasn't a student. And this is what I looked like. I used to hide in the library and read my drum magazines, and when the bell rang, then I'd go mingle with the kids. So the first kid that comes up and talks to me is this kid. His name's Kennedy. He becomes my friend. He plays the bass. He starts driving me all around West LA in his Trans Am, and start learning all the other parts of LA that I never knew when I lived in Compton. Then a couple months later, he takes me up to his father's house, and I didn't know, he never said who his father was, and we're driving through the hills of Bel Air, California. Now, Bel Air, California is the most expensive real estate in the world. And we're going all through the mountains of Bel Air, and I'm going, man, whoever these people are rich. This is crazy. So he introduces me to his father, who happens to be one of my heroes. His father was a man by the name of Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy was the founder of Motown Records. So Berry Gordy was the one who signed the Jackson 5, Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, the Supremes, the Temptations, the Four Tops, all the greatest groups and my favorite groups in the world. So a month later, I'm up there at his house. I'm up there every day now. After school, after my studies, I am up at the Gordy Mansion playing pinball machines because he's the only kid in the world who's got an arcade in the front room of his house that you don't have to put quarters in. So I'm playing it. I see a couple Rolls Royces pulling up the driveway. He had 5 acres at the top of Bel Air. He has llamas and all kind of stuff. So I see two Rolls Royces pull up. A couple minutes later, the doorbell rings. Nobody's downstairs, and so I just decided to go answer the door. And I answered the door, and at the door is the Jackson 5. You know? I opened the door, it's Michael and the Jackson 5. I couldn't believe it, because they were my other favorite group. And then I was like, Michael, Jermaine, Tito, Jackie. I said, I know all your music. I know all your songs, man. There's a drum set in the other room, and Jermaine, there's a bass amp. Come on, can we play? I know the Love You Save, ABC, all of them. And Michael goes, kid, you got a lot of heart. I said, well, come on, Michael, if you had a heart, you'd let me play with you. You know, I know all your music, man. I've been waiting for this moment. So anyway, and I ended up talking with them by myself for like 20 minutes before Barry came down for a meeting with them. And, and I knew everything about them because when I was a kid in school, they had this thing called the Weekly Reader. And in the back of it, you could order books from Scholastic Books. So I ordered the book called The Soul of the Jackson 5. So I knew everything about them, where they lived, where their house was. I pretended like I didn't know. Hey, where do you guys live? I knew they lived in Encino. They had a basketball court and all that. I was like, how come you guys aren't inviting me over for tea? So when I left their house that day, I wrote in my diary, I said, I can't believe I met the Jackson 5. And I said, I wrote down when I was younger, one day I'm going to meet the Jackson 5. So anyway, I got so inspired, I started working crazy, like I practiced like crazy. This is one of my quotes I loved. One of the rarest things that a man ever does is to do the best he can. So I started grinding it out, because just meeting them, I was like, I want to make it. I want to do something with my life. My mother gave me this proverb, Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will serve before kings. He will not serve before obscure men. So I worked really hard, and within a couple of years, I ended up playing with Stevie Wonder. That's me with the towel around my neck, looking about 12 years old. And then my vision came to pass. I met all the guys from Earth, Wind & Fire, which I couldn't believe. And one of the first big tours I did is playing with the lead singer of Earth, Wind & Fire, Philip Bailey. That's the guy with the high falsetto who sang Fantasy, Shining Star, Reasons, all the beautiful Earth, Wind & Fire songs. Then a couple of years later, I scored a big gig, and I played for 2 million people. This was the vision I had when I was playing on the box. When I was playing on the cardboard box that my brothers and sisters painted, this is what I imagined. This was in 1985, and I was playing with a group called The New Edition. But actually, before them, I worked with this guy for a little bit. His name was Albert Einstein. He was having some math homework problems, so I decided to help him on this theory of relativity. That means keep relatives away for as long as possible. 3-day maximum limit. But anyway, I loved what he said. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. So I imagined these things because God was dreaming in me and with me. And there I was. I finally made it to Disneyland. 5 years later, after my rejected audition, I stormed the gates of Cinderella's castle and played with the New Edition to a record audience of about 80,000 people. Then shortly after that, believe it or not, I became a bit of a teen star. Back then, there was a win a date with Zoro contest. The line was really long. Now the line is not quite as long, but and it's really only me and my wife that go out. And so I began to be a pinup in every kind of teen magazine: Latin teen, black teen, white teen, den teen, Afro, whatever. I was in all of them. Then a couple of years later, in '84, I ended up recording with Michael Jackson. But remember, I did the one glove before him, and I always told Michael, man, I was doing that long before you, dude. When I was out in a trailer in Oregon, I had the one glove because I lost it in the woods. So anyway, I recorded a song with him, and then I ended up touring with Bobby Brown. I did all the My Prerogative, Don't Be Cruel, Roney, every little step. Unfortunately, I introduced Bobby to Whitney Houston, and you know what happened there. The other kid I met on the lawn that day was at Beverly Hills High was a kid named Lenny Kravitz, and I had become his drummer for many years. We played all around the world. If you don't know Lenny as a rock star, you might know him as Cinna from the Hunger Games, and he was an actor in that movie. And then I toured with Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and that's the guy you know from Jersey Boys, the Broadway musical. I was with Frankie on a plane when he dreamt up the idea of Jersey Boys. We were talking about the future, and he said, what do you want to do with your life in the future, Zarelli? He used to call me Zarelli, like his Italian Zora. I said, Frankie, I want to write books that touch the world. He goes, so what do you want to do? He goes, if I could have my druthers, I'd write a Broadway musical about my life. I'd call it Jersey Boys. So it came to pass, and then it became a movie with Clint Eastwood. But this is a scripture that really speaks to me. Proverbs 18:16. A man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. So I saw this come to pass in my life. I ended up working and traveling with this guy, Paul Allen, which most of you would know from this town. He was the co-founder of Microsoft. Unfortunately, last year he passed away. But he invited me to go with him on his Octopus, which you've probably heard about, the $240 million yacht. And this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like next to a city. It was bigger than the city. It was bigger than the city we were in. And this is what it looked like from the back. You had massive parties on there. But of course, every boat has to have its submarine. The only submarine I had been on before that was the one in Nemo at the Disneyland thing. But we rode around in his submarine, and he had a state-of-the-art recording studio. But this all really fulfilled like a scripture where the Lord said, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." Philippians 1:6. So I never got to be the world's greatest chicken farmer that I had hoped. I never got to be the world's greatest camping book writer. God would have a platform for me in a different arena, which would be music, and He fulfilled my dreams of being a musician and gave me a platform all around the world. But the camping book never came out. If you go to Amazon and look up Zoro, you won't find my camping book. I still wish I had my notes, though. But he commissioned me to write a book, and the book was called Soar. The book still is called Soar. It's Soar, 9 Proven Keys for Unlocking Your Limitless Potential. So God commissioned me to write a book to teach people how to live out God's dream for your life. So that was but see, when you're a kid, He plants things in you that are child age appropriate. He planted the dream of a writer in me, but it was just through camping. But later, He was going to bring the writing to come to pass. And it's all been extremely, extremely hard work to do all these things in my life, which reminds me of my favorite Thomas Edison quote. "Opportunity is missed by most people because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work." It is very, very true. And this is my other life verse that I love. Psalm 37:23. "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delighteth in His way." So God's hand has been on my life. Remember, at the park in Grants Pass, I was 10 years old, starving, and the Lord fed me. It's called Riverside Park. Well, only a couple of years ago, the Lord brought me back to that very park, the very same spot in the park, and gave me an opportunity to preach to thousands of people. So here I was as a 10-year-old, the Lord was feeding me physically, and then years later He would bring me back to the same spot where I could tell the story, and now I'm feeding the people spiritually. You cannot make that stuff up. That's the Lord directing your steps years in advance. Because with God, all things are possible. Matthew 19:26. The best part of my story is that I got to have a family of my own. Because when you grow up without a father and you grow up with 7 brothers and sisters and you struggle and you never had that solidarity, I always wanted to be a father. I always wanted to be a husband. So this is my family. I've been married for 25 years now. I have 2 children. My son is 20 and my daughter is 18. But it has all been hard work. It's been hard work to be a musician, a speaker, a teacher, a father, a husband. And it reminds me of what Michelangelo said about his work. He said, "If people knew how hard I worked to gain my mastery, it wouldn't seem so wonderful." Because everybody thinks that all this stuff is easy, and I like how Theodore Roosevelt also put it. This is very true. "Far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing." Doing the work of the kingdom and doing God's work in our prospective area is the most gratifying thing in the world. It is hard, but it's gratifying hard work. I used to think when I was younger that the greatest attributes that I had that God had given me were my different talents, like we all think our talents. But I learned later it was not that, because many people don't really even embrace their talents. Mark Twain said, "We are always anxious to be distinguished for a talent which we do not possess, than to be praised for the 15 which we do possess," which means we're always trying to be something that we're not. Instead of just going, "What have you given me, Lord? What are the skills and talents you've given me? And let me just work with those." Because, you see people, they're always wanting to be something else. And I just took the things that God gave me and just was faithful and loyal to develop those things. But of all the things that really have helped me in my journey with the Lord, it is just the ability to believe. Everything is possible for him who believes. Mark 9:23. So even as a kid, I believed that all these things were possible in these impossible circumstances when we didn't know how we were going to survive. I just kept dreaming with God. And this person lives inside of you as well. But this is the guy I never let die. Okay, this kid still totally lives in me. I protect him. I nurture him, I guard him from all the doubt, all the naysayers, all the circumstances, and I look past and I go, I'm just going to look to God. I'm just going to trust God. And so my whole story here is really a story of not limiting God. God can do anything in your life at any point in your life. All you have to do is believe. All you have to do is do your part. And whatever he's telling you to do, if he's telling you to write a camping book when you're 10, you start writing the camping book. Because later when you're 40, he's going to release a different thing through you. It's just about being obedient to the small things that he's asking you to do and taking risks and taking chances. I mean, risk is another way of spelling faith. You know, everything to sit out on that lawn at Beverly Hills High was a risk. It was faith. I didn't know what else to do. But, you know, even though we make mistakes along the way, God, in the end, he honors faith. In one way or another, he can lead you. So it doesn't matter where you're at right now in your life or what you're doing. It matters what you can do from the future. So if God he's created all of us to have dreams, right? And some of us don't pay attention to those dreams, and some of us do. And so I'm still dreaming. My whole little short story that I shared here with you, I'm writing my memoir right now. I'm about 75% of the way done. The Lord showed it to me as a vision, as a movie. So I'm still dreaming like I'm 7. But the purpose of all these things is that we glorify God. Everyone's always want to know what is their purpose in life. I'm going to tell you right now, your purpose is only one thing. Your purpose is to glorify God. And you do that, you're going to do that with your platform, your gifts, your talents, your experiences, your past, your relationship. This story is meant to glorify God. This is what God was able to do in an impossible situation with a family. This was what God was able to do with a kid who dreamed. It's the Lord who did it. I just cooperated and just agreed with him that it's possible. But, you know, we have to use what God gave us. And my whole thing is like the parable of the talents. At the end of my life, I want to be able to say that I turned what you gave me into more. I only know that I have a few skills, and my wife will tell you that I only have a few as well. You know, because I'm not handy, I'm not, smart in those, when it comes to fixing a water heater, man, I got to call somebody. I don't know what to do. So, but my only gifts I have are drumming, speaking, teaching, and writing. And I utilize those, but I figure the only thing that's important is that I turn those into more, that I give God the honor and the glory and give him the credit, and that I affect as many people as humanly possible within my lifespan with those gifts. And all of you have the same ability, the same platform. God's in the people business. All you do is love on people with what he gave you. My career and my skills have just really gotten me in touch with people all over the world. That's all it is. It's gotten me before people, but I've used it judiciously to serve him and to lead many others to Christ, because by nature I'm an evangelist. Well, that's my story. I'm going to close out with a prayer, and I thank you so much for listening. Dear Lord, thank you for this time we've had together. I just bless the people. I pray that something I said would inspire them to see who you really are, that all things are possible with you, but we play a role by faith. And so I speak dreams to come alive, faith, vision, courage to pursue the things that you put on there, and let age never be a factor in any of this, Lord, because you are the miracle-working God who can do anything. Thank you for this conference, and bless each person. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. 9:55.
Thank you, Zoro.